Hello, welcome today for a dose of daily JavaScript, and today I'd like to talk about single page applications and the on hash change, right? And we'll use the hash here, which is the hash mark followed by some characters in the URL string here to work with navigation. And so you can see I have a web page here that's got a blue background, and if I click the links here, you can see now I've got another page. It says page B, and then there's a yellow background, and now there's a purple background or magenta, and page C, right, and page D. So I've got 4 pages. And first of all, this is a single page application. So really, it's just one HTML page, index 1 HTML. When I click these links, I'm not loading another page. We're just viewing the same page, okay, just different content. So a single page application is essentially a single web page that acts like a whole website, or really it acts like a small application. And why would this be good? Well, when you load web pages, essentially you have to load all the data over the network, and that works pretty good if you have a fast internet connection, right? On a slow internet connection, like on your phone when you're using a cell connection, what happens is that the download speed is slow, and you end up downloading a lot of redundant data. So there's a lot of boilerplate code that goes into all of those pages that you might load, and on your phone that really slows things down and creates a poor user experience. The single page application, on the other hand, loads one time, and then it's just swapping information out or changing the DOM, right, to display different information. And I did this in a few other videos, so you can look at my other videos for different aspects of this. But this is a popular way to make mobile websites. Okay, so the example that I have here, it uses 4 div tags, right, and these are right here. And each one has an ID, A, B, C, and D, and they each have a class name, page. Okay, so they're all class page. And then I just put this container div and an H1 inside, so we had something to look at, right? Above, I have a simple navigation scheme with a list with a bunch of links in it. And my links here, they use the href, and the href is the ID of the div that link is going to show. Okay. And this is going to be on the end of the URL as the hash. Okay, so this will be the hash, right? So how does it work? Well, you'll notice I'm navigating through the pages. So I'm going, from D to C to B to A, and then back to D again. And what's nice about using the hash change here is that that's held in the browser's history. So I can still use the back button on the browser to go to my various pages. Okay, even though the changes are done with JavaScript, okay, because my page is listening for the change in the hash here, and when I hit the back button on the browser, it changes the URL here, and then my JavaScript picks up that this has changed, and so it triggers the JavaScript that swaps out the pages. So to change the pages, I'm just doing a simple hide and show with jQuery, right? And and that's pretty simple. And you could look at some of the other videos. I have some videos that use a transition, and you could apply that to this same example, right? So let's talk about the example for a minute, and maybe I'll rebuild it. I'm going to leave all of the default sort of boilerplate code in here, okay? Because it'll take a long time to retype all that. But essentially, I've got the UL here with some links. And then I have an ID with a div and another div with an ID, right, for each of my container pages, right? And so at the bottom here, maybe I'll just delete the JavaScript. That's really not that much JavaScript, so let's delete it. And what we'll do is we'll rewrite it, right? So the first thing we want to do is maybe write a function. So I'm going to make a function here, and I'll call it show page. And what I want to do with this function is I want to show one of these page divs and hide all the others. Okay, so this function, it wants to be able to show any one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the ID name of the page that I want to show to the function, and then the function will show that page and hide all the others. So we can do that pretty easily. We'll say jQuery dot page, so that should get all of our pages, and then we'll say dot hide, and then for the page that we want to show, we'll say, you know, page ID dot show. Okay, so so there we go, right? And now how do we get the hash change to work? Now this is kind of a little magical. We don't even have to have any events on these links here, because clicking the link, if it has the hash name here, that'll automatically get added to the browser. Okay, so it'll automatically go in the browser in the URL. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll write a jQuery method here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add it to the window, okay, to the window object. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do on, and then I'm going to say hash changed, or is it change? I forget. I think it's changed, right? And then I'll follow this with a function, and then this function will occur when, you know, when the hash value in the URL has changed, right? And let's test it out, right? So we'll say console.log, and then we'll say hash changed. Okay, so we'll refresh this. Right, so there's my page. Now all the pages are visible, right? And when I click on this, you can see, actually my hash change is not working. Maybe it's hash changed, right? Let's go back and, or hash change like that, right? So we'll say hash change. Let's make sure I spell it right. Let's test it again. So we'll save this, and then I'll refresh my page here, and I'll click on the buttons, right? And so you can see every time the value up here changes, then it tells me that the hash has changed. And if I type something else in here, even if I just, you know, type in www and then hit return, you can see that, oh, it says hash has changed again, right? So anytime this value changes up here, then that event will be triggered, okay? So the browser knows that when the URL changes up here, this, or the hash part of the URL anyway changes, then it's going to trigger that event, okay? So so what do we do? Well, let's do this. Let's say, how about, let's do one more thing, right? So in order to find out what the new hash value is, we can use, and I'll just tack it on here onto the console message, right? So we can use location.hash. Okay, and that'll tell us what the hash value is in the URL. Okay, so I'll put that here, and then I'll refresh my page again. And when I click on A, you can see it says hash changed, and then it shows me the value. Right? And if I click on B, now you can see the values B and C and D. And actually, you'll notice the page is changing, but it's not really doing our single page thing. Really what it's doing is it's just scrolling to the new page. And that's the standard system. So without doing any JavaScript, if you ever need to just jump to an area of your page, you know, you can use a link with the hash value, which is the ID for that, you know, section of your page, and it'll go there. Okay, so, you know, that's how we get that for free. So actually using this method is kind of nice, because in a way, if I mean, JavaScript's never, you know, not working, but if it wasn't working, our page would still function to some degree, which is kind of nice, right? But anyway, so we got location hash. So now what we'll do, and this is going to be pretty easy here, all we'll do is we'll say show page, and remember we need the ID of the page, but that's actually in location.hash, right? So if we just say show page location hash, then, you know, it's going to jump to the page that is the hash ID, right? So let's save that, and we'll test it again. And now when I click on C, you can see it jumps to C, right? And the other pages are hidden, like I can't scroll any longer. And we can test that if I go to the elements here, you can see these are all display none, except for this one, which is display block. And when I click on A, that would be the first one right here, right? You can see now we're looking at page A, and that one's display block while the others are display none, right? So there we go. There's our single page application, and you could put any information that you want, content into these divs, and it would just be displayed whenever you showed that ID. And then what's nice, like I said earlier, is that the hash part of the value here, since it's in the URL, it gets saved with the history of the browser. So using the back button, we can travel back in our history or forward to go through the pages. Now, if you're creating an application, the back and forth button, or the next and previous buttons, may not make sense in your application, but if you're creating an application that runs in the browser, this is sort of a reality that you have to live with. Like, that's part of the browser functionality that's always there. So, people might use that anyway. So it's nice to play nice with this and have that kind of working with your app, so people get what they expect, even if you didn't really plan for them to use it. But anyway, so there's a simple example there. Let's do one more thing. If you'll notice that if I refresh this, it takes me to page A, but it still shows C up here. It doesn't change the hash. So what would be nice is if when we load the page, if it changed the hash here and hid and showed the pages, because you can see it's really just going to A because it's reloading the pages and it's not hiding the other 3 pages, right? Until we click a link, and then I click a link, and then now, well, actually it didn't do it that time, but oh, there we go. Now it's working, right? So, so what we should do is this. We should say, like when we load the page, we should say location.hash equals nothing, and then say location hash equals our default page. The reason I'm doing that is just in case you're refreshing the page and there is a hash value. If it's A and then we set it to A, it won't have changed, and so this won't trigger. But if we do this, then that should trigger our page, right? So let's go take a look, right? So if I go here and it says D right now, and then I'll refresh it, and now you can see it goes to A, but the other pages are hidden, right? And everything's working correctly. Like, we're loading into the first page of our application, and now we can click and go to the different pages, and our history still works, right? So anyway, I hope that's useful and interesting. And like I said, this is pretty easy to work with, right? I don't have to even write any click functions for the links or anything like that, right? So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that's useful to somebody.